those of you who watch this show do know that I'm I'm liable to be a little critical of the president. We give him a hard time, but we try to give him credit when he deserves it. But I found something really remarkable. This actually surprised me, of the number of people that I was surprised that are giving him credit, particularly for this peace deal in the Middle East and in Israel. And hopefully we'll get these hostages back, 20 of whom are alive. There were more people coming back in boxes, which is a horrifying war crime, and we'll get to that with. But before we do that, I just wanted to take a look across the media landscape today and what I've been seeing and the things that surprised me. And I'm going to start with a clip from, I say make fun of Donald Trump. I think I probably make fun of Morning Joe more than Donald Trump. But this is from Morning Joe. And this is the Washington Post columnist David Ignatius speaking to Joe Scarborough and his wife. They're married, right? Is that right? Am I fact-checking that? Yeah, they're married. Okay, all right. I want to make sure I didn't want to get sued for libel, that he was married to Zbigniew Brzezinski's daughter. That's what I call her. But here is David Ignatius talking about that deal and who deserves credit for it.
The deal that President Trump is announcing played a key part in negotiating is a significant change. This war was blocked for 2 years. President Biden, who preceded him, was unable to find a way to stop it. President Trump found that way by being tough on both sides. And he'll take a victory lap for sure over the next few days. But it's deserved. There's no way that I can see that this would have been done without Trump's pressure in the final hours.
David Ignatius, no fan of the president, giving a lot of credit, actually taking a swing at Biden there, too. The 2 years of, or a year plus of things not happening. And we can get into all of the mistakes of Rafah and all the mistakes that came from the Biden administration. But here's Martha Raddatz over at ABC. She's long been their kind of scolding chief foreign correspondent. And she had something rather similar to say, which again surprised me. Here's Martha Raddatz.
Well, Robin, there's no question that if this goes as planned, if we see those remaining hostages freed and Israel begin its withdrawal, it is a remarkable achievement, and President Trump most certainly deserves credit for his role. He has done this through diplomacy, pressure, and the sheer force of his personality and persistence. He dispatched diplomats again and again, made threats just in the last few days to Hamas, saying again if they did not sign the deal, all hell would break loose. And they had the bombing of Iran as an example of that.
They had the bombing of Iran as an example of that. By the way, it is important to point out here that I do this quite frequently. The show does it quite frequently. The other show that I do, we do that quite frequently too, is shit on the media. Let's be honest, that's what my profession is. And it's important to point out that people in the media here who have a dislike, much like I do, of much of Donald Trump's both domestic and foreign policy, are giving credit where credit is due. They're not, spinning this in any way. And I want to go one more that really surprised me, because it's Abby Phillip at CNN talking to Dan Goldman, a Democrat who I don't think has ever said a nice word about Donald Trump. I think he's a bit grudging here, but let's look at Dan Goldman and CNN.
That this was not doable when President Biden was in office.
I think the biggest problem that the President Biden had is there was no pressure from Qatar, from Turkey, from Egypt. They were actually facilitating in many ways what was going on. And that is really ultimately how it all came together.
So, but I think by saying that, it's sort of an acknowledgement Trump has changed that dynamic.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think
absolutely. That. He's clearly.
I don't know how he,
changed
and I think there's a lot that remains to learn about what prompted that change. But I do agree, yes, somehow, some way that changed.
You see the grudging part that I mean there? So I don't know how, somehow, some way, and I love it, the Qataris, they were maybe even indulging Hamas, who were all living in Qatar. Yeah, maybe. There's more of these. That'll give you a sense of what's going on, because it's kind of undeniable that Donald Trump's played an instrumental role in including, and we'll talk to Dexter about this, the attack on Iran. And let's look across the media landscape, the Middle East landscape. We've been looking at the media landscape. And you see that Hezbollah has been basically neutered. We expected that, those caches of rockets, really thousands of rockets that Hezbollah had buried under some pit somewhere that were going to come raining down on Israel. Didn't happen when first they were blowing the hands off of everybody in Hezbollah and then launching their own attack. The same thing is true in Iran. Talk about a paper tiger. What was going to happen then? Americans involved themselves too in hitting Iran's nuclear facilities. I don't think the Iranians got a single plane in the sky. I'm actually fairly sure they didn't, and the planes they had are quite out of date. The Houthis, I think they got all the Houthis. They invited them to a party. They got an email. Did you see that? It was like, let's go to a party, Houthis, and they're like, yeah, we've got to go, and they blew them all up. The leadership, all in one go. We can go across Syria is no longer in the hands of the wretched Assad regime, and possibly in a new wretched regime. But let's wait and see. And now this deal in Gaza, which incidentally it is worth pointing out, comes at a very, very high and very heavy price.